Hello everyone, and or the two people watching. Um, Thank you for coming back to this stream. So this is going to be the final part of the Silksong Tapestry that I've been working on. Last time I didn't get to do any more work on it because there was a pretty intense thunderstorm and I didn't want to risk my computer. And same with this time. Well, not same because it's actually quite sunny today. But yeah, we had like storms that entire week. It was really intense. And I was actually meant to stream on Saturday, but unfortunately, the day after my last stream, my partner was grocery shopping and he stepped weird in the rain and exploded his entire goddamn leg. Um, no, he severed his Achilles tendon, which is pretty serious because even for those who aren't like medically trained, as I'm not, it's a pretty like necessary tendon. It kind of controls the entire movement of your leg. And that was a whole thing. Like I had to go pick him up from the grocery store and then I had to leave my car there and then drive him back and I was sort of like, "Oh, everything's fine. This is just like a sprained ankle." And he's like, "Just feel my leg," and I felt his leg and there was no tendon there and that was really scary. But he's fine. They did have to surgically repair the tendon, and obviously that's going to take some time to actually heal. In the time where it's healing, he won't be able to walk, which sucks. Like, something that I always like to think about. Well, maybe not like to think about, but something that I occasionally find myself thinking about is just like how grateful I am to have functioning body parts. Like, you don't really realize how much parts of your body are integral for you to be able to function until you don't have them anymore. And I am incredibly grateful that he's okay. I'm also incredibly grateful that in general, we're both fairly healthy and have like functioning body parts because not being able to use your legs for any period of time really sucks. So yeah, anyway, the long ass story is he's fine, but because of that, I wasn't able to really get any work done last week. So I did not improve upon my model at all. I was meant to do some stuff, like I wanted to try and fix the clipping in the eyes, because you can see when I blink, you can kind of see the outline of the eyes because the eyelids are just clipped to the eyes, which is a little bit of a cheat that really only works on models that are like really simplified, like this one is. But yeah, I want to kind of learn how to make this model better so that I can start making other models and I can actually potentially start selling VTuber models. So like the Hollow Knight ones are probably going to be my starting point because I love Hollow Knight and I love Silksong. So I want to make as many little characters that could fit into that universe as possible. This character that I'm using right now, which is the first one that I've ever made, is called Omiom. So it's like onion, but with M's instead of N's. So that one's not going to be for sale. That one's mine because it's mine. But other than that, hopefully in like the coming streams as I go on, because I have some other Silksong pieces that I want to work on, and also some Claire Obscure pieces that I want to work on. And in the coming days, I'm hopefully going to have some more models to show everyone. Okay, cool. So that's the update on me and my personal life done. So now we can get straight to the drawing. So I've already forgotten what my toggles are. I think T was tablet because it's T. Yeah, it is. Okay. I'm actually just going to turn on all my toggles once because they take a second to load in. So once they're loaded in, then it's fine. But like that first time using them, they always, for some reason, end up being kind of weird. So F3 was center and F2 was in the corner there. Okay, great. So I've got my tablet toggle on. So we were pretty far, actually. I'd forgotten how far I'd gotten last time. Like, I'd basically gotten to... Yeah, I got to the abyss, and then the lightning just scared the crap out of me, so I had to stop. So let's finish up with this today. I don't remember anything from last time, like how I was splitting up my layers. I can see that there's 2 layers here. There's this dark layer. I'm just checking. Yeah, there's that dark layer. There's... Okay, those are lights. I do remember that I made some, like, backlighting in order to kind of illuminate this darkness a bit more succinctly. I might want to do that again because this is a bit too light, or rather it's a bit too like there's not really much you can see here, so I might want to actually add a few additional like beams of light that I will just blur out just for the sake of having like a little bit more texture back there and a little bit more interesting stuff just in general back there. Oh yeah, I'm also sniffly. I'm not sick. Like, I'm never sick anymore, but I'm just like perpetually sniffly these days. And I have no idea why. Also, I can't remember if I did do this. I made a note to do this, but like so much had happened last week that I cannot remember if I actually did or not. But I was... So I'm just going to blur out that light back there. So it's like, it's quite a lot of light, so I'm going to blur it quite a bit so it doesn't overtake everything. Yeah, like, I think I might have done something to kind of fix the glasses issue. So because I'm wearing glasses, and I have quite a severe astigmatism in my left eye, the camera doesn't really pick up my left eye very well, because, like, the way that it works is it makes a ray from your eyes to calibrate where your eyes are. So when the camera picks up your eyes, it draws a line from your eyes. So glasses and things like that can sometimes mess with that because the light coming from the camera that's picking up your eyes is not being reflected properly. And like my glasses are really thick, especially on the left side because of the astigmatism. So like even if like real life, I'm just, you know, out with my glasses, it's hard to see. Excuse me, it's hard to see my eyes because they're super reflective. I think I've got like a green light filter or something on them as well. And also, I'm just waiting for the blur to take effect, so I'm like rambling while that's happening. So yeah, that does cause the blinking to sometimes be out of sync. So I did turn on some settings in VTube Studio, which apparently help with that. When I first turned them on, they weren't really helping, but they seem to be helping a lot more now. Maybe it's just because I'm facing forward more. But they basically, what they do is they try and force the eyes to blink at the same time. So if one eye is tracking, then the other eye will have to blink, which does mean that I can't wink. Like if I do have it on, because if I'm winking right now with the good eye and it's still just blinking. But apparently that does help with that. And I did receive feedback after the last stream that like, no, it's actually cute when it blinks out of sync. I get that. I really do. It bothers me. It bothers me so much. So I'm going to try it like this for this stream. And then I'm probably going to just like mess around with those settings. Like as I'm figuring this out, I'm just going to continue messing around with the settings indefinitely. So like that will maybe change in the future. I might just leave it at like really derpy blinking if that's preferable for people. But yeah, I also want to like learn how to fix these things, because if I'm going to do this in any sort of professional manner, it's probably a good idea to know how to fix things that are broken. Ugh. I feel so stuffy. Like, I think I've mentioned it before, but it's not an apartment, it's a cottage on someone's property. So, like, my landlord lives in the main house on this property, and me and my partner live in the cottage on the same property. And there's not really, like, a garden outside, it's just a pile of dirt. And, like, when we first moved in, it was kind of terrible because not only was it just a pile of dirt, but, like, it was a pile of incredibly dusty dirt. So in the wind and the windy times and the rainy times, it would kick up so much dirt and my sinuses would just go crazy. And right now it's the rainy times again, so we've been here about a year, and my sinuses are still going crazy. So like clearly that's just gonna be a thing. But it's definitely better now, like over time. I think when we moved in, they'd like just put down a fresh thing of compost to potentially like grow stuff, but like it wasn't good compost. Like there's a composting area in the back of our garden section thing that we use. I'm just trying to see where is the line art here? The line art's got to be somewhere over this. Is this the line art? Yeah, that's the line art. And I've now drawn, I think, into the abyss layer as the color art. I don't like doing that. Like, sometimes that just happens. In fact, I'm actually gonna... It's early enough into this that I can just go all the way back in my history. Oops, I forgot about the lights that I put in. Okay, so not all the way back, but it's early enough in the history that I can go back and it will probably be fine. So I just need to find where I did the blurring. Those magic wand, brush tools. Ugh. Okay, I'm gonna have to do it again. It's fine. I didn't lose a lot of work in doing this, but I need to remember like what my layers are, which was what I was supposed to do, and then I got distracted because ADHD things. So, what was this? This was the lights, and I labeled that as lights, so that I know it's lights. I'm gonna make a second addition to the lights, and then I'll just merge it down, and that was literally just like a couple of rays that I want. Actually, maybe I want them to be behind lace. Like, sometimes mistakes are nice because they allow you to just rethink something that you did on a whim. So in this case, I'm rethinking these lights that I put in because I maybe want those to be behind lace so that they're a little bit more guiding to lace's figure. So then I go to filter at the top, go to field blur, and you guys might not be able to see this because it's part of like UI elements that don't show up in the particular display settings of OBS that I'm using, but I will then just increase that blur. By the way, the reason that I'm not using the settings that would allow everyone to see what I'm doing there, so you have two settings in OBS that essentially help you do window capture. One is literally called window capture, and the other one's called display. So as you can imagine, the display capture will show my entire display, including like personal information and anything that's like in my dock, and I don't want to show you guys that shit. So rather than showing that, let me just move the OBS thing a little bit lower. Rather than showing all of that, I would prefer to just keep it to window capture, which captures the Photoshop window, but for some reason, softwares like Photoshop and Krita, or Krita, whatever the pronunciation is, they their UI is like seen as a completely different display, which means that the window capture doesn't work on some of them. Like, it shows my cursor because I have that set up to show my cursor, but if I go into like any of the tabs at the top, and then go into any of those like sub UI tabs, you guys can't actually see that. So I do apologize. Maybe one day if I get a second screen, then I can use the correct capture and you'll be able to see everything that I'm doing. But for the purposes of now, I feel like most people watching this aren't watching it for tutorial purposes. You're mostly just watching it for the fun of watching someone draw. So, yeah, like, I will definitely change that if it comes to the point where I feel like it's worth changing, but for now, it's fine. Okay, so given that lace is such a, like, shape, like, she's literally just like a peachy shape, she's not that complicated is what I'm saying, I'm not even going to bother giving her a color layer. I'm just going to draw directly onto the line art layer because I feel like that's going to work out. Because, again, she's very simple. So, like, with more complex shapes and more complex characters, I would actually split it up because then that gives me more control over what's happening. But in this case, I don't need to do that. So, as I'm going through, I am noticing that my colors are not what they look like, which means that either there is something over them. Yep, there does seem to be something over them. Or it means that my layer is set incorrectly. So in this case, it's my layer setting. So my layer was set to multiply because it was a line art layer. So I'm going to just set it back to normal and just draw over it. And now I'm going to get the colors to be accurate. It is quite a balancing act, trying to make sure that you know what's going on at any given time, especially when you're doing something this big. Like, I'm using I don't even know how many layers I have at this point. I've got like more than 10 layers, definitely. Um, so like trying to keep track of what's going on with each individual one can be a little bit of a pain. Hence why, as you go, it is really a good idea to just merge stuff down, which I have been doing. I think I seem to vaguely remember that I started merging stuff down in the previous session. It's just a useful thing to do. Oh my gosh. Such sniffles. Right, so I'm just having a look at my reference. So her, like, I don't know what you would call it, like a bonnet? Like, I'm sure it's, like, representative of some sort of bonnet thing. It's actually much rounder at the ends than it is here. And she's just doing that, like, weird hime pose. I think that's what it's called. Like a hime pose with her hand on her cheek as she's laughing at you suffer. I have already mentioned this, but I did not like Lace in Silksong. She was not one of my favorite characters. And I understand that the internet has fallen in love with her, which is kind of weird because she is a child. But other than that, yeah, I'm just not a huge fan. Like, she really annoyed me. Even when she was being, like, sad and like, oh, things are sad for her, I was not amused. And I think the reason for that is that I just don't like children, period. Like, they annoy me. Cool. And like Grandmother Silk, she also has this thick, peachy booty. Like, hers is way more peachy, which is maybe why the internet is obsessed with her. It's probably why the internet is obsessed with her. But, like, jeez. It kind of reminds me of a diaper more than it does, like, a peachy booty. Like, you know those, like, granny diapers? Like, the granny panties? You probably know what I'm talking about. But, like, whenever I look at her figure, that is all I see is, like, granny panties. And her face silhouette is actually higher than I have drawn it here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more forehead just to make her look a little bit more pouty. So when it comes to characters that don't actually have a lot of features, you're going to rely a lot more on, like, the shapes of things to bring out the features they don't have. So in, like, Lace's case, you've got sort of the silhouette of her face and her eyes that are really the only things that we have to go on for what her expression is. It's actually quite interesting the degree to which you don't really need a lot of detail to give something an expression. Like, it's kind of the principle behind why emojis and emotes work. Even though they're, like, super simplified, they communicate more effectively. And it's a principle that I think is called masking. I cannot remember. I do think it's called masking. And Scott McCloud's Understanding Comic Books, which is a really great text. If you've never read it, I would suggest reading it. You can definitely get it legally on various book platforms, but if you can't, there's all things that exist. But, like, it's basically, I love this book, and, like, I used to use this text a lot with my students in various contexts because it was just useful in a lot of contexts. But it's basically a comic book that is about how to write and draw and understand comic books, and it is fantastic. But yeah, in that text, Scott McCloud, the author, talks about this principle of masking and how, like, when it comes to us interpreting characters, specifically interpreting, like, their emotions and just feeling kind of as though we can relate to them, the less detailed the characters, the more relatable they actually are. Because if you think about it, like, you can't make a character that looks like every person in the world. You can only really make a character that looks like a person. And not everyone's going to relate to that person. However, if you make that character like vague, like if you've got like a really detailed face, people aren't necessarily going to relate to the detailed face. Like if the detailed face is female or male or non-gendered specific, if the face is old or young, you're going to have someone who's not represented in that category. But if the face is just so simple that you can't define any specifics on it, that means that you can then project upon that face. And it's why I would argue like a lot of the Hollow Knight characters and a lot of the Silksong characters feel more believable than, say, like Assassin's Creed characters that have like very realistic but also kind of janky faces. Like those faces end up feeling almost uncanny valley because of the fact that they're real enough that you recognize them, but then in their jankiness they almost appear alien. So sometimes less is more. It's also why, like in animatronics, I'm getting off on a lot of topics here, but they all relate, I swear. It's also why in like animatronics, you know, with like the appeal of your animatronic characters, if you build animatronics, the less recognizable as like human you make them, or like animal that you make them, like huge eyes that aren't realistic, very simplified features, the more relatable that they're going to look. Something that a YouTuber that I follow called Will Cogley mentioned, because he's might have mentioned him before, but like he's super into creating like realistic human eyes, and more recently he's moved on to doing super realistic like human heads and really realistic hands and that sort of things. But something that he mentioned when he made one of his first like hyper realistic human head animatronics was that the covering that he wanted for it, he wanted to kind of make it less creepy by trying to make it look more cartoonish. And that actually ended up making it more creepy. And I feel like the reason for that is because he didn't go far enough. Like if he'd pushed the limits of it even further to make it look less realistic and more cartoonish, then he would have gotten something that maybe looked a bit cute. Like I find it cute, but like it's also, you know, a realistic human head. So, and it moves around and like the lips move. It's really, really cool. Do check out his stuff if you want to see some cool animatronics. But yeah, his name's Will Cogley. But yeah, like that's also sort of a thing with like animation, is like appealing characters have features that stand out. As humans, we tend to put a lot of value on certain features over others for like actual scientific reasons, but not getting into that bit of it. Like we put a lot of value on faces. So like if you are drawing something and you want to immediately draw attention to what you're drawing, slap a face on it. This also falls into principles of like game design, and like the concept of making things juicy. If you want to make something appear more fun and more dynamic and therefore have more value to a human player, make it juicy by adding a face. Literally, it's like in the YouTube video Juice It or Lose It, where they talk about kind of really simple things you can do to make your video games, if you're making video games, juicier and more valuable. Like really cheap way to add juice, just add a face to whatever. Like if you've got like Pong, add a face to the Pong platform. Like there's also other stuff like using animation techniques, various things, but like yeah, faces are things that we as humans value. We also value eyes. So I think like even more so than like a full face, eyes can sometimes be enough. So like if you chibiify a character in anime, you kind of only need the eyes. You don't even need a mouth. Like you can emit a lot of features. You can emit the nose, you can emit the mouth, and like as long as you have those big eyes to communicate the emotion of the character, you're still gonna get the character. And like literally characters like the Hollow Knight characters and the Silksong characters are very much proof of that concept. Like you can look at them and they just have eyes. They don't have a mouth, they don't have a nose, they don't have anything, but there's still so much emotion that is communicated through a character like Hornet. or a character like Lace, or a character like Chakra, without needing any of that. What it also means is the animation is way easier because no one needs to worry about things like lip sync, and no one needs to worry about things like, facial expressions needing to, like, match up. So with, like, my own stuff that I'm working on with these VTube models, is it VTube models or VTuber models? I don't know. But with my own stuff that I'm working on, like, I am aware that there are some incredibly detailed movements that you can get on a model using, I think it's called VBridger. I might be mistaken with the name, but the Apple software that you can get that essentially acts as a bridging software between your camera and the calibration of your camera and the model itself, and you get way more believable and, like, appealing looking motion when you're using this thing. I don't have an iPhone. I'm genuinely considering, like, stealing one from someone. Like, if I find someone who has, like, I'm sure I've got one friend who's got, like, an old iPhone they're not currently using that I can steal. But I'm genuinely, like, I kind of want to try and see how far this can be pushed. Because at the moment, because I'm using literally the crappiest versions, the cheapest versions of this equipment that I could find, and, like, I know of others who have, like, even more thrifty than that, like, they built stuff from scratch to be able to do, like, VTube streaming. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, because of that, like, I want to kind of push the limits of what you can do with next to nothing, which means that I am going to utilize a lot of things such as, like, more simplified but appealing characters that therefore read more emotionally. So with this character, I debated for a long time whether or not to give her a mouth, because a mouth is a point of expression. And obviously with the equipment that I have and the fact that I've never done this before, wow, that looks way too much like a butt. I need to change that. That's not good. Let's make that look less like a butt. Like, her thing is a butt, but, like, it doesn't have a cleft. It does have a cleft. Oh my god, that is literally a butt. The cleft is lower down. I think maybe let's make the cleft lower down, cuz this right here, that's just a peach. And we don't want that. I've somehow made it worse. Oh no. Let's just take away some of those details. There we go. That's appropriate. That's child appropriate. What was I talking about before I got distracted by butts? Oh, yeah, so the goal with, like, the mouth, right, in this case, was to have a mouth that was kind of like map, 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 map. So, like, it wasn't actually doing much, which meant that, like, you don't necessarily need, like, lip sync. There's lots of cheating techniques one can use in the medium of animation to create the idea of something that is very believable, but doesn't necessarily realistically represent what it's representing. So in the case of my model, that was the goal, is that, like, the mouth just maps, and because of that, it looks like I'm talking, more or less, but it's not a realistic lip sync at all. Like, this is certainly not, like, the 16 essential visemes, which, if you study animation or, like, are interested in animation, that's a thing. A viseme is just the shape of a mouth. Like, it's called different things depending on what you are animating for. Like, in 3D animation, it's called something else. But essentially, a viseme is the shape of your lips when you are making certain sound groups in English. And a phoneme is the sound that is associated with that. So if you think about it, like, in English, you've got, like, your vowel sounds, so, like, ah, e, ah, o, and oo. My mouth is moving a lot more than you can actually see that it's moving, but those sounds have specific lip movements that are associated with them, and those mouth movements that are associated with those sounds have shapes. And there's pretty much 16 of them. So when I say 16, it's 16 in a neutral expression because you also have different expressions, right? If you're sad, your mouth like, let's see if I can actually make this model frown. No, my settings won't allow me to frown. I can like open my mouth in a little bit of a frown, but I can't like frown just with my mouth closed. I can just get it to neutral. And that's because of how I set this up. I didn't expect to be doing a lot of frowning. But yeah, like if you've got 16 mouth forms that create the sounds for like pretty much any word or sentence in English, because again, this is specific to English. Like different languages will have different ones. Like there are languages in South Africa. We have 11 official languages. So like there's languages with like clicks in them and like ahs and stuff like that. That's a whole different story. Like you'd need more, like you can recycle visemes across languages. A lot of times that does kind of work out. It's just like, yeah, the sound and the shape can sometimes be similar. But the point that I was trying to make before I got so far into the weeds is that with like your more complicated models, they have the ability to form very complex mouth shapes. So like when they're talking, it looks like they're talking. It's very realistic. It's very well sunk to what they're saying. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You can get something that's very believable and still works without necessarily needing it to be that accurate. Like, the accuracy is really cool, and I do hope to be able to do that someday. I'm just saying that, like, you can still have a really cool, like, model or really cool animation without it needing to have accurate lip sync. And I think a lot of people who are coming into the medium for the first time, sometimes there's a misunderstanding of that, where it's like, they think that, like, in order to make your character or their character appealing or their character read well, that they need to like make it super realistic and super accurate to how actual mouth movements work, and that's not the case at all. There's a lot of forms of animation that are really like fun to look at and interesting to look at where that's not the case. The Odd Ones Out is an animated YouTubing channel that I follow, and I've followed for a long time as well, and like the animations there, more recently, I think they've actually like got a team of people to make more realistic like visemes. But like initially, their animations didn't really have any lip sync at all. Like, in fact, they didn't really actually have a lot of like smooth form animation at all. It was mostly just like poses of the animated character where the animation pops between those poses with like really, I'm gonna say juicy. This is the problem with having like a lot of cross-disciplinary knowledge, like a lot of like juicy ease in and ease out motion to make the character look more springy and more dynamic. But like the character would just be switching between like three poses. They wouldn't necessarily be like animating like an entire set of movements. But that's enough. Like that's enough to make a really cool, really juicy, really fun-looking animation that attracts attention and holds attention. Because, like, in general, things that you don't want when it comes to animation is you don't want, like, stiff robotic movement, because that comes across as stiff and robotic, and it's unpleasant to look at. And as humans, we tend to disregard things that we look at and find unpleasant to look at. Like, not always. Like, there's times when you're like, oh, what the hell am I looking at? And then you're looking at it more because you just want to figure out what is going on. But, like, in terms of just general day-to-day things, like, if you're looking at something, specifically something that's animating, and, like, it's kind of janky and it's kind of weird looking, your brain kind of shuts off to it. Like, it genuinely, it does. And I think, like, the advent of the internet kind of made it worse because we're being bombarded with so many things constantly, a lot of which is just, like, slop and trash. Like, it's not actually worth looking at or paying attention to. So, like, every time you see, like, a clickbait ad, your brain literally just turns off to it. It just ignores it. Whereas if your brain sees something that's more interesting, it doesn't turn off. And that's where those principles of like what our human brains value kind of comes into play, because if you see something that your brain interprets as valuable or interprets as interesting or interprets as something that you need to pay attention to, it's more likely to pay attention to it. And I know I said I wasn't going to get into like the psychological reasoning behind that, but I kind of am. Like if you see a face that is frowning at you, or a face that is like looking aggressive, or a face that is being sultry, all of those are things that have high value to the human brain for reasons that you could deduce on your own. And because of that, if you see a clickbait something that has like a snarling face or a sultry face, you are going to pay more attention to it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to click it, but you'll pay more attention to it. And sometimes that's all the algorithm wants, is just a little bit more attention. Sometimes it wants you to click on it. It's an interesting, weird thing. What we are is interesting and weird. But yeah, back to Lace and her. I guess she's also a spider, because she's like an egg sac. She's like an egg sac that's been kind of opened up or something. It's weird. Whatever she is, she's definitely very cute and appealing, even if I don't like her as a person. Because she's got very rounded shapes, and they make her look cute and appealing. Like if you ever want to make something cute, give it rounded shapes. Rounded shapes are cuter. Like shape theory is a whole thing as well. And I actually don't want to talk about shape theory right now. Like I talk about shape theory a lot just in my normal life. Like I'm constantly talking about shape theory. So I'm just not going to do that right now. But yeah, I'm quite happy with how she looks. I'm wondering if I should make her arms spindlier. I think they're okay. I've mentioned in the previous videos, but like I really prefer with my reference images to get like a 3D model photo reference when it comes to like 2D characters, because when you're interpreting something to a style that is more 3D, excuse me, when you're interpreting something to a style that's more of a 3D style, get like an action figure of whatever character if you can, of whatever character you're trying to make, because that means someone else has already had to build it in 3D, and also in a space where it had to stand up and like feasibly work while standing up. So you're gonna get like accurate lighting, you're gonna get more accurate proportions in some cases, not always, and then you can kind of go from there. With all of my works, I kind of on the spot make decisions about like how accurate I want to be towards the original character versus how accurate I want to be to like a more three-dimensional form. Like it depends on like what style I'm doing, because yes, artists can have multiple styles and do multiple styles. Oh my god. A bizarre concept, I know. But yeah, it depends on that, and it also depends on like what I'm going for, really. Like if there's a character and they have like an element that kind of only looks good in sort of a 2D hypothetical format, then I might stick to like the 2D hypothetical format instead of trying to make them look more realistic. But if it's a character like Lace, where it's like very simple and, you know, there's a lot of room for interpretation, like I can basically do whatever I want with that. Like I could give her little teary eyes if I wanted. If I want to make it look like she's crying. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm doing this. I think I'm doing this just for me. But yeah, I'm doing this just for me. So I'm just gonna give her little teary eyes. So she's crying because she's so sad. She's a sad little Lace. Also, just make that hand actually touch her face, because at the moment it's just kind of off to the side. I'm in the wrong brush tool. And zoom in on your characters occasionally, because you will see things that you've messed up. This actually doesn't look too bad. She's so simple that I didn't really have much room to mess anything up. I just want to erase out some of this line art that still remains that I no longer need, and that'll be good enough. So there's my lace. She is crying because she is sad, because she's not a real person. Which, spoiler, Lace is not a real person. Okay, I'm also just gonna move her down because she's like floating off of the platform. This is the thing when you're working with multiple layers. You will sometimes find that things just end up in different places. It's just a thing that happens. What I'm also gonna do is, her head is super round, and I've kind of made her head more the top part of a phallic thing that I'm not going to say out loud. So I'm gonna fix that. Like, whether that was intentional or not in my subconscious, no one will know. I'll just hide it, and then no one will definitely know, and she'll just look more like a mushroom cap. She does kind of look like a mushroom cap. Oh yeah, on the note of mushroom caps, so the character of Mr. Mushroom in Silksong and in Hollow Knight, he's a recurring guy, and he is absolutely adorable. I am probably going to add him like in the various areas, so like I'll just have him like popping out in like more than one area as sort of like an Easter egg, because he is in the game. You have to go and find him across the map, and then the last bit of where you're finding him is a really stupid hard platforming section, which I eventually beat after like 5 billion attempts. So, yeah. Okay, also I see that her needle is actually more of a cane. She's got that classic hooked needle design, like a lot of the people in Farloom who wield needles. So I'll just make that hook around. Erase some of the bits that I don't need within that. And there I go. Hookity hook hook. Cool. And I can't quite remember if her needle was like gold or if it was like bronze. I mean, in the game it just kind of looked yellow, and that could really be interpreted as either. I think here I'm going to make it look a little bit more gold. So I'm just adding some highlights, and frankly these highlights are pretty arbitrary. There's very little light in the abyss to begin with, so I'm not really going to try and make this realistic lighting. I just want to be able to see the character and to see what I'm doing with it. So yeah, there we go. That's the needle cane thing that she wields because she's like 1 billion years old, even though she's also a child. And here's where I can use my mixer brush to just do a little bit of cleanup, because like when you're just kind of erasing the form into existence, that was a weird sentence, but you get what I mean. When you're using your eraser to just cut the form to the shape that you want, you're gonna end up with like little raggedy edges. So I do like to occasionally come back and like fix that up, just with like the hard edge of a brush and my mixer. It just hides a lot. And there we go. We've got lace, but my lace is sad. And we've also got her little staff, just kind of glowy. Right, so I'm gonna leave that now because ADHD makes me want to continue and like continue, but we gotta move on. Like, it's already been like 47 minutes, and I still gotta finish Big Hornet here. I'm basically gonna go until I'm done today. It's sunny, there's no threat of rain. It'll be okay. So what I'm just doing is kind of roughly tracing these forms. This will just make it easier for me to fill the whole thing with black. The Abyss is such a strange textural place because it is both very hard and very watery and very tendrily. So like the forms of these tendrils as they move go from being very stiff and very hard to being like water. So yeah, I can get away with a lot, is what I'm saying. Cool. So there we go. Abyss is done. No, it's not done. We've still got more stuff to do. I also just want to check. Yeah, okay. So the Abyss lighting layer is here. Let's just call this Abyss color layer so that I know what I am doing and where I'm working. And let's also just lower the opacity of that so I can see what's going on. I'm then going to go to my polygonal selection tool just to make these hard tendrils that are like spiking out from the Abyss. So I'm going to do 2 layers of these. I'm going to do the layer where they are kind of very visible. Let's just move this over here. So you can see like there's parts where it's like that's very visible. Actually, looking at the tendril, it's not hard. It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of stringy. Like it's like strings of silk, but the silk is black. So I will add that in. So it's like there's silk strings that are shooting out from the Abyss. But I'm just gonna draw out the kind of like more stringy, uneven organicness of some of these tendrils. That one I'm gonna just not have pointing directly at the third choruses, but I might actually, oh, okay, I see what's happening there. So I need to go back here. So I need to not draw that to the extent that it was drawn. So instead of filling it all the way, let's just use our brush tool so we have a little bit more control over what's going on. So then that's not pointing directly at the third choruses, but, I mean, it is, but like, it's not touching, so it's fine. As long as they don't touch. Right, so there we go. I'm just gonna kind of have like these jagged, shadowy, stringy pieces that are coming off of it. Like so. Cool, I think that's close enough to what this actually looks like. And then we've got like a piece of string there as well. Then we're gonna make another layer, and this layer is gonna sit over this one. So the reason we can do this over instead of under, because if you think about it, if these are gonna be like in the background here, they would normally be in the back. We can get away with them not being in the back for the simple reason that they are black. So when we utilize the blurring, it's not going to affect the overlayer. Does anyone know what I mean by that? Like, it's not going to affect that foreground layer at all. I'm going to quickly make, like, there's, like, something in the background there, which I presume is just, like, other platformy junk. And maybe one more that just points at lace. Cool. So now, I'm going to fill these up with black. And again, I'm just going to use my, my thingy. Oh, actually, will this work? Yes, it will, because they're on a different layer. Okay, cool. God damn it, why is... I keep accidentally swapping my colors over. Okay, so this one's gonna need to be cut because it's gonna go over lace. No, it's not gonna go over lace, because she's on a different layer. Haha. Remembering to put stuff over layers is great, isn't it? Okay, so we're filling all of this up with black. So I could have just filled it, it's fine. Then I will deselect, and I will go to my filter. There's no point in me doing, like, little details, because I'm going to blur it anyway. But I'm going to blur that out. So I've got a slider here, which you guys can't see. And I'm just kind of playing with the slider to see, like, what looks better. Thankfully, the reference that I have is exactly the look that I want, so I don't really need to... I don't really need to worry too much where that's concerned. Like, as long as I use the slider to the extent where it looks like what is in the reference, it's fine. Which is really nice, because sometimes I struggle to just do the thing, which is also ADHD, but yeah. I'm just waiting for the blur to actually take effect. The, like, little, what is it called? Where it's like a line and it's just getting more and more towards the right. There we go. It's taking effect now. Yeah, like, that's a thing that happens. I'm also just going to lower the opacity of this, because I do want to see some of my stuff at the front. So there we go. We've got some of this in the abyss. And I'm just going to merge this down, frankly, because, like, I'm not going to do anything more with that. It's already there. It already looks good. And then, like, the falling rocks, I can put in on this layer. And I'm just using a soft brush. Like, I'm not going to bother with the whole blurring thing with this. Like, it's not worth it, frankly. The soft brush works perfectly well. What I might need to do, because the black's not showing up as specifically... Oh, it's because I'm in the wrong black. So there actually are different types of black. So if you look at, like, my color palette up here, the darkest black is over on your right in the bottom right corner. That's the darkest black that you're going to get. If you use the opposite corner, it's still going to be black, but it's not going to be as black, believe it or not. So just choose wisely. So we've got these little bowls coming out. I'm also just going to use a hard brush to define them a little bit better. So they will have a bit of an outer gradient, but I do want the internal bit of it to be quite dark. Okay, cool. Cool. And then let's do this platform, because if I don't do it now, I am going to forget about it, and that will be a problem later. I do like that pretty much everything in Hollow Knight and Silksong, even the geometric, like, architecture, is still pretty organic. Like, this platform is pretty, like, bug made. It's not a shape that's, like, that could exist in nature, but it's still organic enough that I don't need to very carefully measure my lines. Like, one of the things that I loathe the most and I struggle the most in drawing and painting is creating geometric forms. Like, I really struggle with that. When I was in the ninth grade and we did technology as a subject, they made us do technical drawings of things, and I just didn't get it. Like, I would just draw the thing, and then the technology teacher would measure my lines and be like, none of this is accurate. And I'm like, but it looks like the thing. So what does it matter? And obviously, if it's a technical drawing, that matters a lot. Like, my technology teacher was also a dick, but like, that aside, I can concede that there was a problem with how I was interpreting what I had to be doing. Whoops, that's a bit... Whoa, what happened there? That's a bit too far. I pressed something on my tablet and something weird happened. So I'm just kind of getting the base light on this and how it looks in the reference. And then I will try and draw out some of this other stuff. Yeah, like stuff like this, I struggle with. Like, I lose attention on it very quickly, and then I start making nonsense that isn't actually there. So it's like a bit that comes over like that, and then like pillar. Like, these look almost like, I don't know, like they're like sarcophagi. Like, genuinely, I would be very interested in a Hollow Knight Silksong art book where they actually go through the process that the artists and the conceptual artists and the final render artists went through to get to these shapes and these things and like what the idea was. I don't know if they will, because I feel like one of the things that both Silksong and Hollow Knight are kind of known for is that the lore is very like up for interpretation. So if they made an art book where they explained what they were going for, that would to some extent spoil lore, and they probably don't want that, so they probably aren't going to do that. But I would buy that. I would buy that in a heartbeat. What I've also realized is that the platform that I'm currently drawing, it is not long enough. Because, like, if you see here, the part that I drew here, I drew from this end, and the part that I drew here, I drew from this end, and I just completely, like, spaced on the area in the middle. So the platform that I'm drawing is going to be shorter, because it's not, like, a big enough issue for me to have to now extend this platform. Like, I think it's fine that she comes to the edge of the platform. It literally just means that, as I'm drawing this stuff, I'm kind of going to have to make up my own platform, which is going to be a shorter platform than the one in the original reference. But again, I'm not drawing this for accuracy, I'm drawing this for me. And I don't want to have to draw more pillar, so I'm not going to. Let's just grab that. Cool. It's kind of weird, because I'm looking at it and thinking, like, this pillar, it might be shiny. If I'm interpreting what I think I'm interpreting correctly, this might be a very shiny thing, but it might also just be, like, a rocky texture. Like, another thing with, like, 2D textures is a lot of times it's up for interpretation, what you're looking at in, like, a 2D stylized thing like this. Because I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's rocky, but it is also kind of shiny. If I think about, like, other areas in the game with similar structures, they are kind of shiny. So it's almost like your shards, like, they are quite shiny. So it's like mineral ore that is very, very shiny. And I still haven't finished Silksong Act 3 yet, Also, today I found out that they're doing a DLC for next year, and oh boy, and it's a free DLC. So, yeah, I am obligated to play it. I say I'm obligated. I want to play it. But I will say, like, I am tired. Like, I'm probably going to play some more Silksong tonight if there's time and I'm not exhausted and just fall asleep after I make sure that my partner has eaten and has, like, medicine and does the physio exercises that he needs for his leg. If there is time after that, then I might play Silksong, but, like, the burnout is real. Like, I am grateful that the burnout that I have right now is due to a video game and not, like, life. But frankly, it's life too. Like, I am very much done with this year. I would like it to end now, please. Like, I feel as though it's just trying to fit as much crap into it as possible before it ends. And I'm just tired. I just want it to be done. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I think, like, it's dark enough down here that I can kind of just pretend like there's details, but it's actually just silhouettes down here. I don't need it to be more accurate than this. And if I look at it from a distance, it looks fine. So that we've got our platform. One more thing I am just going to do is add a little bit of lighting over the platform. So, like, you can see there's, like, a bit of a glow on the edge of the platform, which, frankly, is probably practical. It's probably there so that the player can see that platform when it's very close to the color of the other things in the scene. But I'm adding it nonetheless because I want to. There's also, like, vines that are coming up around this pillar. Which is interesting. I wonder if these vines are, like, organic or they're part of the architecture. So that's the other thing is, like, you never know. Something might literally have a very specific intention and specific meaning, and some of it might just be stuff the artist was like, this looks cool. So I'll never know about these vines. But they do look cool. So I will add them, and they will be there forever. Okay, so now we can turn off our line art because I feel like we don't need it anymore. And yeah, we've got a pretty nice looking platform there. Gonna add a touch more ambient lighting to it so it doesn't look as superimposed as I think it currently does. Whoops, wrong brush. I want a brush with higher opacity. And I want a lighter gray for this. And then I can just start adding a little bit of contrast into the scene as well. Like, very, very lightly. I don't want to distract too much from what's already there, but just like little points of contrast here and there will actually bring the rest of this image to life and make it look a little nicer. What I can also do is I can add some lighter areas onto the darker areas, and that's going to give the impression of like in these selections, that's just going to give the impression of more of those, you see, like more of those strands coming up. Sometimes I talk and then I don't actually know what I'm saying. Like, my brain is saying stuff and I'm not present for what it's saying. It's just like, oh yeah, that's my brain said that, and I was not present for that moment. I was just a passenger on this ride. Nice. That looks good. And then finally, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make more stuff in this abyss. Like, I want to make it kind of more tendrily. Like, at the moment, like this image, it's very like bubbly. Like, she's looking into it and it's just kind of bubbling in the area that she's looking into. But I want to make it more sort of tendrily to kind of represent the tendrils that are coming up into the world. So I'm just using my mixer brush to kind of make those tendrils, but also kind of make it look non-corporeal. This is like shadowy tendrils. Because it's shadow. Like, it's shadow that can harden or shadow that can remain soft and pliable. So I'm just adding a little bit of a tendril there, and a tendril there, and a tendril there. Maybe a tendril there as well. So just something in between these two things. I'm also kind of paying attention to the overall composition of this section of the tapestry, because I don't want to create stuff that's now leading the eye off of the page. So like, guiding lines are a real thing. If you have the ability to, have lines that point to your central composition. So my central composition in this case is lace. So I'm going to have all of these tendrils kind of point at her. Like, do things with intention. It's what separates us from the clankers. Is that we actually have intention behind what we're doing, and we're not just doing random stuff. Cool. So like that one's kind of becoming more of a something. I'm just kind of doing stuff right now, like with the vague intention that I have to point at lace, but I am not really that interested in like thinking about this. Like, I'm just going and letting whatever happens happens. There we go. And once again, always make sure to zoom out every now and then so you can actually see what you are doing. Nice. I like how that looks a lot. So we will keep that the way that it looks. And I will add some more dots. Okay, so these seem to be behind the light. How is that a thing? Where is this light? There it is. Okay, yeah, they are behind the light. I literally put the light on top of everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge the light down, because we're not going to do more with it. It's already as light as it can light. What? You know what I mean. Someone has to know what I mean, because I don't know what I mean. So I'm just going to use something kind of between a hard and a soft brush to just add these teeny tiny spectral lights that are behind her, which will also help guide the eye towards her. And just sharpen that out so it's very clear that that's a falling rock and not just like a random blob. Silhouettes are interesting things. Like, you see how this is very clearly like a falling rock because it's like slightly geometric, whereas mine is not. So mine looks more like a blob than a rock. So I need to make it look more like a rock. There we go. Now it looks more like a rock, I hope. Also just add some like speed lines. Yeah, these are falling rocks, those two. Great. What's also nice is because lace is the brightest thing in this scene, your focus is drawn to her in this scene. She's the brightest thing, the things are pointing at her. Her staff is also like the only thing that has color in it. Everything else is black and white and sort of monochrome, so that also just attracts attention towards her. Okie dokes, and I see that my silk ribbon has been covered, so I think what I need to do is I need to take Hornet and I need to move her up to the very top. I see that there's a flea, so she needs to be underneath the flea, and that's it. Okay, so her silk line is disappearing, and I'm not sure why. I guess it's just disappearing. It's just was never drawn fully tangible. So I'm just looking now for stuff that I have forgotten. And this is where now the checklist comes in. So I've got Chakra, I've got Garamond that I still need to add, and I have Mr. Mushroom. I might not get to these characters today. Like, I might not actually do another video. Like, you'll just see the final thing and it will have these characters in it. Just because making a video specifically for those characters is maybe not advantageous. I don't know. We'll see. Did I draw that on the wrong layer? Yes, I did. I was drawing that on the Hornet layer. And I need the checklist layer. Mr. Mushroom. There we go. Turn that off. Maybe I will. Fuck it, I will. Okay, so we've now got the areas of the tapestry finished. I'll probably be filling up any of the empty spaces that I see using those characters that I just mentioned. And I can have... So I'm just looking for anything that I feel is missing here. Like, obviously Hornet's not done, but also I feel like I could use some feathers from this character, and have, like, feathers falling from that character. I've mentioned, like, the silk is kind of disappearing, so I need to bring that back somehow, or maybe not. We'll see how I feel. But really liking how this looks, and I see that I've already merged all of the layers for Hornet. So what I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to clean this up, because there's too many layers right now, and I don't know what all of them are for, and some of them are probably not useful anymore, so I'm going to take a second to clean this up. So this layer is a reference that I no longer need. Gonna delete it. These layers don't have names, so this is a flea. I'm gonna label it so that I know what it actually is. This is a flea. If all the layers that don't have names are actually fleas, that's gonna be hilarious. That's the bird. This layer doesn't have a name. I'm turning it on and off, and I'm just looking very hard at the thing to see if there's anything I can see. There's nothing. So this layer must have been made at some point and then forgotten about, so it gets deleted. Hang on. Just making absolutely sure that I didn't delete something I actually need. Cool. Gone. This layer... Oh, this is the Hunter's March. So let's just call this Hunter's March. Of course it's the Hunter's March. It's literally in a folder called Hunter's March. It doesn't need to be in a folder. I can just have it be one layer. So this is the background of the cogwork dancers. So cogwork back, so that I know that's what it is, and it's behind the Hunter's March because of how I drew it. Cool. This is some fodder, so cogwork lines, let's just call it. I tend to call stuff like this fodder. It's just like stuff that's there to attract attention. Okay, needles. Right, so that's Grandmother Silk's needles. I'm going to merge that because, yeah, that doesn't need to be separate anymore. There's Grandmother Silk. I'm going to keep those separate because I might want to do a little bit more with her hair later. Okay, this is more background. Does that need to be under this? Just move that. It doesn't. So I'm going to merge these two things because they are essentially the same thing. This is cogwork back. Yeah. Even though that's above the back. So let's just merge that all down. And now this is all the cogwork background. Great. Great. So now I know what's going on. What is this? That is Grandmother Silk's background. Is there a reason it's behind the fourth chorus? There's no reason why it's behind the fourth chorus. So Silk back, just so that I know that it's there. Like, do make sure to just move stuff around just in case, so that you can make sure you're not deleting stuff that doesn't need to be deleted. That's the fourth chorus background. This is the Fey Wilds background, which also incorporates Grandmother Silk's background. So I'm just going to call this one background because it's at the very bottom. So anything on this is going to affect the layers above it, assuming that they have any sort of transparency. Cool, and everything has been labeled. Yay. Alright, so I'm just going to turn off my references. I will keep that one on because that one's fun. That's Hornet. Sometimes I just keep references on because I like looking at them. That's a good reference for Hornet, so I'm not going to get rid of that one. That's fine. I can get rid of Lace I no longer need. This one of Chakra and her master. I'm still going to need that when I draw Chakra, so I'll keep that one there. I also need to find a reference for Garamond. But everything else that's currently not there, I'm just going to delete. Because, like, it's not really taking up that much processing power, but it's taking up some processing power. So I'd just rather, you know, have what I need. And then, one other thing that I noticed is that these guys are a little bit light compared to everything else, just a little bit. So I'm just going to adjust their colors slightly. I'm just going to make them slightly more saturated. When I take this to print, I am going to adjust the colors entirely for printing, which is a whole different sort of thing. Like, you guys aren't going to see that. But essentially, whenever you print stuff, you print in CMYK. So it's a really good idea to make sure that if you are creating something for print, that you convert it to print colors. And there's ways in Photoshop to ensure that if colors aren't going to show up nicely in your print, that you can you can make those colors look a bit better than what they are. Okay. There's everything. Oh yeah, and also I noticed one more thing that I do need to quickly fix. I'll just merge this group. It doesn't need to be a group anymore. On the fourth chorus, I did say I was gonna put the red on his thorax, like the red moss on his thorax, because firstly, it's going to complement the red of these things here, and secondly, it's gonna look nice. So I'm basically just doing this from memory. It looked just like, you know, red splotchies. It wasn't like anything very specific. It was just sort of like, oh, okay, he's got like this red moss on him. It might look like blood. That's fine. If it looks like blood, that's still cool. And I see my tablet. Alt key is not working again. That just happens from time to time. I don't know why. Hang on, let me unplug and plug back in. Hello? There it is. And the handedness settings reset themselves. I am left-handed, so my tablet is set with my express keys on the right so that I can use my right hand to control them. And because of that, every time I unplug and plug in my tablet, because the default is for right-handed people, it resets, and then it takes a second before it remembers that I have it set for left-handedness. If you are interested in, like, getting into digital art and drawing, handedness settings really do matter. Like, a lot of people look at them and they're like, I don't need that. I'm just gonna draw, like, on the tablet. Like, the tablet's oriented on the ground or flat anyway. So, like, unless I'm orienting it to be portrait or landscape, it doesn't really matter. It does matter. It changes the way your express keys are input, firstly. It also does actually give the space allocated for the drawing on the tablet to be oriented more to the left or the right. So yeah, it does matter. Do change those settings. If you are left-handed, do change those settings. It will actually make a difference in your life. If you're right-handed, it doesn't matter because the world's built for you anyway. Cool. So that's the moss. It definitely doesn't look like blood. I don't know if it looks like moss, but it looks like something. I really love the fourth chorus. It's so intense. Such an intense looking thing. I did want to also fix up its legs because its legs got a bit wonky at some point. Like, they just look like two different legs. I just want to make them look like the same leg. So that's one leg. I'm just using the mixer brush to make my life easier. That's another leg. I see line art here, and I'm not sure where this line art is coming from. It's fine if there's a little bit of line art there. Like, I kind of like having a little bit of line art everywhere. I think it makes the work look more authentic. Like, if you can see little bits and bobs, or like the artist forgot to delete the line art and like just added it into the scene. Alrighty. That looks good, that looks good. I do feel like, well, we'll see, but I think like the bottom two are very detailed and the top two are less detailed. So I'm probably going to add in a bit more detail in general just to make it all feel a bit more cohesive. And that was something that I thought I might have to do from the beginning. I just didn't know at the time how it was going to turn out. So I kind of left it, but now I see that, no, I am going to need a little bit more detail. I'm specifically going to put it on the Faybird. So on the Faybird, I'm going to add these areas of white. Oh, is it not going to add that because the Faybird is underneath stuff? So where is this then? Oh, I just wasn't on the Faybird. Oh, also it was, that makes sense. It was pixel locked. Make sure you unpixel lock stuff if you're going to add stuff to it. There we go. That immediately helps, just a little bit more detail on the top to kind of make it more cohesive to the bottom. Alrighty, let's finish Miss Hornet, and then I can call this a done session. And then we can all go and eat. Even if you have nothing to eat, just eat something. My brain literally just restarted. I was saying a thing, and then my brain restarted, and I was like, oh, what? What was I saying? Something. Okay, so just very lightly gonna go over her red cape. Like, I've already drawn Hornet once in this piece, so I can literally steal colors from that Hornet and put it in this Hornet. But arguably, this will be the more important Hornet, because this is the one that you're going to see first. Like, with Tapestry compositions like this, there's nothing to see first. Like, there's so much stuff in general that what you see first is entirely dependent on you as an individual, which I kind of like, but it also means that trying to guide your attention through it can be really difficult. I am hoping that the silk strand that I have coming from this big Hornet here will help as a guiding line for my viewer. I just don't know. We'll see how it looks in the final thing, which will be posted on Instagrams and on all platforms where I am. And obviously I'm gonna actually have this commissioned into a tapestry. Commissioned? This isn't commissioned, I'm gonna have this printed into a tapestry, jeez. And when the supplier that I found actually prints it, I will have a conversation with them about like the colors and trying to get them to be as accurate as possible. Unfortunately, this is one of those things where like, if you work digitally, you tend to make your color schemes look good on the screen that you are using. But unfortunately, different platforms are going to change those colors, and that's just inevitable. What I used to do, and I should continue doing this because it's actually a really useful thing to do if you are working on digital art, is send whatever you are drawing to your phone. Because the way that your phone interprets light, I don't know about iPhones, but like normal Android phones, the way they interpret light, it's going to show up slightly differently than what you're seeing on your screen. It also depends on the quality of your screen, but like, if you want to make sure that your colors are as accurate as possible, check them in different places. So check on a phone, check on your screen, especially if you're doing it like for commission, just do check on a different platform, because what you're seeing might be slightly different than what your client is seeing. And you need to make sure that even if that's the case, it's not going to fundamentally change certain colors. And colors like red do kind of change between different platforms. So just check. Just make sure everything's above board before you send stuff off to your client and they're like, why is this so dark? She looks like a flower. Okay, I'm just going to clean that up. Let's clean up this line, and let's clean up that line. Her legs are just going to be black, so I don't really want to worry about those. I just want to worry about this cloak. My favorite portraits that I've seen drawn of Hornet are ones that are kind of abstract. So, like, there's one where, like, they made her cloak kind of just look like a splash of red, and then she's kind of just, like, bleeding from that splash of red. It's kind of hard to explain, but, I do like the more, like, abstract interpretations of Hornet's cloak. Because, again, she's a very simple character, so you really have room to play with how you build her. I've also seen some, like, really hyper-realistic interpretations of Hornet where they made her, like, an Elden Ring-esque character, and she's got, like, actual bug leg features that are, like, sharp and mandibly, and, like, I don't know how to feel about those. Like, I'm sure I like them, but there's a part of me that's also terrified of them in that way that you can simultaneously like and be terrified at the same time. It's just very weird. But yeah, with what I was saying with, like, the abstract Hornet's cloak, I'm almost tempted to do something like that. Like, it doesn't necessarily fit with the style that I'm going for. Whoops, that was the eraser. So I'll have to see. If it works, then I might go with it. If it doesn't work, then I'll abandon it. That's also why you just gotta shoot your shot. You just gotta try. Just try everything. Like, who cares if it doesn't work out? It was about what could have been. Okay, so gonna grab my mixer brush. I'm gonna look at what I have so far of her cloak. I do like the very, like, organic petaliness that's kind of come into her cloak here. That just kind of happened. I didn't really have anything to contribute to that. But given that it's there, I'm gonna kind of play into that. So I'm gonna just grab, like, these little spots. So the idea that I'm going for here is petals. That's it. Just petals. Whatever else comes of this, petals. Okay, gonna first grab the mixer brush, and in the areas, gotta unpixel block that. In the areas where I can see her cloak, I will draw in that red. Oh, that looks awesome. See, this is why we try things. We try things, and if they fail, they fail. But I friggin' love this. Like, I love the kind of, like, flower petaliness coming from her cloak. I'm gonna take it farther. I'm gonna draw more things here. Like there. Like, I'm aware that there's an upgrade. I mean, I have the upgrade that you can. It's not an upgrade. It's a tool that you can have spikes hidden under your cloak, and I feel like this is what that actually looks like. It's just like your cloak is tearing off in, like, flower petals, and you look so cool while that's happening. Just repositioning myself on my chair. Okay, so I also like that it's kind of, like, painterly, given that, like, there's more painterly stuff at the top and less painterly stuff at the bottom. Maybe painterly isn't the right word, but presumably someone knows what I mean somewhere. And then. Okay, so some of this line art does not match up with where the colors are, so I'm going to start by fixing that silhouette. So I'm just going to start by adding in that additional silhouette. I always forget that, like, her, let's call them mandibles, the horns at the top of her mask, they actually come together more in a shape that's almost like a cow hoof. I always draw them when I'm drawing from memory. I always draw them kind of farther apart, like the Hollow Knights ones, the actual Hollow Knight, not Ghost. But they're not. They're also slightly softer than I always draw them. Like, I always draw them, like, super sharp, but they're not. Like, obviously it's up to interpretation, but I think this is more accurate and also looks cuter to draw her with these. I will say that every time I draw her face, the angle of the mask, like, messes with my brain a bit, because I'm like, where do I put the eye? Where do I put this eye, specifically? I also always imagine that her eyes are a lot sharper than they are. Like, I've always drawn them a bit sharper, like they're a little bit more like seeds. But if you look at them, they're not really. They're pretty, round. Like, she's not that, intense looking. But I think knowing her character and her personality, it's just easier to draw her more intense and, like, more harshly than what she actually is. Okay, and I'm just using my mixer brush to clean up those edges. I will come and clean them up properly once we have rendered this a little bit. Because her mask at the moment is quite gray, and I am going to add some white to it. Don't worry about selecting areas like this. I do that because I like knowing that my pen is cordoned off somewhat, but by all means, just do whatever makes sense. It's also difficult to get an idea of the actual shape, the actual form of her mask, because of the 2D sprite being very flat. Like, I just imagine that the mask itself is somewhat flat as well, but it could be much more rounded. Again, it's very much up to interpretation. One thing I do like to do, though, is I like to come underneath the eye holes of her mask, and I like to add just a little bit of a white outline at the bottom, like, regardless of how much detail I've put into it. I just want like doing that because I feel like it makes it look like they are holes rather than like they are like eyes. And I mean, like, they do move like eyes, so questions. But no, that's just like a cartoony thing. Like, even though it's a character wearing a mask, cartoon logic dictates that because they're eyes, they will move like eyes. But then again, I could also just be misremembering. Her eyes could maybe not move at all, and because of the fact that the character communicates things through their body language and you're projecting onto that mask, it could be a case of, like, the eyes have never moved, but I interpret them as having moved, and in my head I remember them moving, and I remember her looking angry at one point, when she never did. Okay. Cool, so just wanted to thicken up that line. Yeah, she's actually got a very rounded chin, if you can call that a chin. So I don't really need to change what I've got there. I think that's rounded enough. What I will do, though, is I will create more of the opening for where her head sits. So you can kind of see that, like, there's more something under here. There's more weirdness under here that we will never see. All we will see are Hornet's nudes. I will say, that was shocking. In the game, the fact that very early on in the game, you immediately see Hornet naked. And it's just like a stick figure. Like, there's nothing there, but, like, damn, that is one sexy stick figure, just saying. But yeah, that definitely, like, caught me off guard. I was not expecting that. Like, I know the internet is thirsty, but sheesh. When we start thirsting after stick figures, what has become of us at that point? Okay, I've also noticed something. I never finished doing the top of the fourth chorus's head, and I think I might have deleted its reference. So now I have to go grab a new reference, because why did I do that? Did I delete its reference? I didn't delete any of these. Why did I not delete these things that I said I was going to delete? What is wrong with me? Are any of these of the fourth chorus? Ah, okay, never mind. I don't have to go searching the Google for stuff. I have a reference. Cool, so it's like a crown. It's got like a crown of thorns. Right. And they're like silvery. So they're probably going to appear more gold, but I'm just going to make them silver. Making sure I'm in the right layer so I don't mess something up that I've already done. As I mentioned, I really do not like non-organic shapes, and like spikes, like medieval spikes are very non-organic shapes. So I'll do my best, but these are gonna end up looking a bit wonky. I mean, they look a bit wonky in the actual design. Like, whoever drew them, I think, was also, like, drawing them by hand. And yeah, I could copy this over, but it's such a small amount of space, it's just like, why? I could draw it faster than copying it over. It's weird that, like, the ones that are more oriented to one side are easier for me to draw than the ones that aren't. I think that's weird. Okay, and then there's the band attached to this crown. Random side note. So I found this area in the Sands of Karak. So when you open up the shortcut for the Sands of Karak, and you can go to the place with your fast travel companion faster, there's an area on the side, like as you're ascending to get to the various boss fights and things that are in that area, there's like a hidden place inside of the wall on the side in the Sands of Karak, and if you go into that, there's just like a pit, and if you fall down into the pit, there are these bugs that are like making this chattering noise, but once you get there, they immediately dig into the sand and disappear. And then you play your needle, and they come back, and they start singing. And there's a plaque at the beginning of that area when you first enter through the wall that says something that would imply that the little bugs that are running away from you in this area will one day grow into what becomes the last judge. So it's like the nursery of the last judges that will like grow into that creature that you fight to get into the Citadel. And I just thought that was a pretty cool piece of world building. So I thought I'd mention it. Because, yeah, like, there's nothing in that area in particular. Like, there's some shards in that area as well. At the top, you can go grab some shards. You can also just hit the wall repeatedly to get more shards if you don't value your life. Not in, like, you know, being dangerous way, in, like, a you don't value your time sort of way. Like, I do occasionally hit the wall for shards, but, like, that lasts for about 10 seconds before I'm like, okay, wait, this needs to stop. Like, there's so many more things that I could be doing with my life right now, and picking up shards in this way isn't it. Like, I'm aware that you, in the second act, can also run on the treadmill with Loam to get, like, one shard every minute or something, and, like, someone legitimately suggested that as a tactic to get shards, and I'm like, in the time it takes you to do that, you could have just gone and killed a bunch of enemies, and that would have been more stimulating. Like, I don't understand. And I get that I don't understand because of, like, personal feelings about it. Like, my life experience is just different than other people's life experience, but I don't understand min-maxing. I really don't. Because I'm like, if you're not actually playing the game for the enjoyment of playing the game, then what are you doing? That's just always been my opinion, credence thing, is like, I don't understand when people play a game and they're like, I'm playing this game to win better, because I'm like, who cares as long as you're doing it? Like, the way that you do it surely does not matter. It's just about doing the thing. But I also get that, like, my values in life come from what gives me the most dopamine or serotonin. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a doctor, but like it's about seeking out those brain chemicals that I lack. So for me, it just doesn't make sense to do something that's just not stimulating, even if it's going to produce a more effective, fun time. Or rather, it's going to produce a more effective outcome. Sorry, not a fun time. Like, if it's going to be a more effective outcome, but it's not going to be fun, what's the point? Is the way that my brain works. I am aware that that's not how everyone's brain works. There's a lot of people in this world who are like, I just want to get the most efficient way possible. I want to get to the end of this the most efficient way possible. And if that is you, then okay. I don't get it. Because I'm like, but it's about the journey, man. Like, it's about how we get here. Like, if we got here efficiently, okay, but like, we didn't see any of the sights. We didn't do any of the stuff. So what are we doing? What are we doing? Okay. So I'm back on Hornet. I just want to see how much of this is actually here and how much of it is a lie. Okay, so firstly, let's lock those pixels. Okay, so I did not actually draw the majority of that, and that's why it's disappeared here, because there's nothing there. So, because I don't want to draw it again and just hope that it is in the same shape, I'm going to use my pencil tool to actually draw the stroke. So firstly, I need to make sure that I'm on a brush that is appropriate. I think 6 pixels will be wide enough. And in my pen tool, I go to stroke path, simulate pressure, and let's just see how that looks. That looks bad. Why does that look so bad? Maybe because I still have a thingy on. Let's try that again. So, vague shape of that, stroke path, simulate pressure. And then hit enter. Why does it still look bad? Is it because this is not above the flea? What is this underneath that it shouldn't be underneath? Oh, okay. So I completely misunderstood this. Something else is happening here. So there's this path. I'll put the flea back. Just see, okay, it's that flea. So I'll put this flea back on top so you can't see my... Is it that flea? No. Which flea is it? These are all called flea. Be careful when naming your layers if you're naming them all the same thing. Okay, so... just hit enter so that we don't see that. Okay, so this is actually there. It's just I didn't see that it was there. Okay, so how do I do this? Or rather, what's the best way to do this? This is the easiest way. Let's take our eraser brush, because like it's not following the exact same trajectory. Like it not being a perfectly straight line I don't really care about, but it's not following the same trajectory, and we can't have that. Okay. My landlord's children are screaming like banshees, because they do that. Okay, so I'm just going to take out some opacity, literally by erasing it, and that will allow me to get away with more. How did that get to 1 pixel? This should be 6 pixels. There we go. That looks like it connects a bit better. I should also put her needle in. So her needle will probably be coming down here somehow. Yeah, that'll make sense. And I can just erase this bit. Because it's such a thin strand that the areas where it disappears will just read as like it was thinning out a little bit more. So now that connects to that, and it connects up to smaller hornet up here. And then that all connects up to Grandma Lace. Or Grandma Silk, geez. Grandma Lace. Who even is that? But yeah, so that's like a really nice guiding line throughout the entire image that comes down into the abyss as well. But let's make Hornet's needle. Say H needle because there is already a layer in here somewhere called needle for grandmother silk. And I'm not gonna draw the full needle. I'm literally just gonna draw like the base of it, so like it's behind her. Mostly because I'm lazy, frankly. Like, I'm already somewhat exhausted from this shorter session, and I would like to go eat food. And I still have Garamond and Zaza and Chakra to draw, so yeah, I'm helping myself out here. Okie dokes. And let's just give it like one very shiny area to the needle that looks like that's the needle shining in the light. Making stuff look shiny is actually quite easy. Like, people don't think it is, but in stylized formats, it's super easy. So I'm just going to kind of draw the vague indication of that going down. If I was holding shift, that would have worked out a lot simpler than what I did. But yeah, there we go. So there's her needle. It does look a little bit weird. Like, it kind of looks like she's shooting off into space. So let's fix that. So instead of it just being like straight, let's put it there. So it looks like she's kind of holding it off to the side. I'm just kind of experimenting on where it looks best. Actually, up here it might look best, genuinely. Like she's kind of holding it over her shoulder. And let's back it up and see how that looks. Yeah, I think I like how that looks because it's also like pointing up towards other lines that will help lead the eye back down. So yeah, I mean, what I could also do is not be lazy and draw the entire needle and then put it like there. How does that look? That does look better, I think. I hate it when stuff like this happens. Because I'm also like, where would her arm be if she was holding her needle like that? Could also just put the needle in front of her, like so. Yeah, I think survey says this is the position of the needle. It's also why it's good to test things out before you commit to them, test them out. So let's just finish making the form of her needle. It's not even that bad. I'm tired and like my brain's like, I want to write right now. Like, what I've found has been very helpful for me when it comes to working and trying to stay focused on what I'm working on with the ADHD is, or ADD or whatever it is. I will kind of jump between tasks intentionally these days. So like, if I have a commission that I'm not really that keen to work on, but I also have like some D&D scripts that I want to write or something, I will just start writing the D&D scripts, and then halfway through that I will inevitably start feeling the desire to do something else, so then I'll go do the commission stuff, and then halfway through that I'll inevitably feel a desire to do something else, etc., 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 and it's just kind of like, that's helpful. By the way, what I'm doing right now is I'm just using the ellipse tool to make the circle end for her needle. And I'm going to rasterize that. If you don't rasterize it, then this next part's not going to work very well. So let's make that smaller. And then I'm holding control on the keyboard to just manipulate the angle of that. It does sometimes push things a little bit too far, so do use it carefully. But I've found that this is the easiest way to get some geometric shapes that I do not want to draw myself. Okay, so now I can just add in the highlight details. So that's like the eye of her needle. And like something went wrong there. That needs to be fixed. What the hell happened there? this got weird. So let's just rejoin it down to the tip, because I still want to make this look like one cohesive shape. Thankfully, Hornet's Needle and Ghost's Needle. Ghost's Needle is way more complicated than Hornet's Needle, but thankfully both of them are pretty straight-lined, easy shapes to draw. And linear. Let's just mask that off. Cool. I'm like leaning so far down in my seat right now. I don't know if my model is even picking me up anymore. Oh yeah, it kind of is. Inevitably, at some point in my streams, some bot says something, and I'm just like, why? Like, surely there are streamers out there who have lots and lots of viewers. Like, just leave me alone. Leave me alone, bots. Okay, let's add some like shading, some shadows into that. It'll just kind of bring out the form a little bit more. Yeah, this is less than accurate, but I think it's good enough. I am also completely going off of memory of what her needle looks like, because again, her needle is such a specific geometric shape. I think the handle is longer than this. I'm fairly certain the handle is longer than this. Let's just quickly check. Yeah, the handle's super long. Oh my gosh. Like, the handle's like more than her body. But that's fine. We can fix that. So the way I'm going to fix this is I'm literally going to cut this bit off of the handle. And I'm going to do that. It's even longer than that. Wow, this is such a long weapon. Okay, so I'm just going to move that, and thankfully I've got the string there to also help me just align it. And then, using my selection tools, I will fill in that gap. And using my mixer brush, I will fill in that gap. Now, this doesn't always work, and there is sometimes going to be weird artifacts that you need to go back and fix. But again, for something that's this geometrically simple, this is an easy and quick way to get through it. I also just realized, like, I went on a whole rant earlier about not understanding min-maxing, when in reality I min-max all the time to avoid doing stuff, even within stuff that I like just to avoid a bit of extra work with stuff that I like. So I suppose it might also be like a form of, I guess, dealing with a lack of dopamine that would cause someone to be like, okay, I'm gonna rather play a game efficiently than with any regard to, like, the game itself. Weird. Sheesh, my landlord's kids are so loud. Like, this morning, they were just shrieking. And, like, they're kids, and this is their home. So I will never be like, oh no, they're too loud, or what. Like, they're kids and they live here. They're allowed to be loud. It's just, like, the games that they play are all about dying. Like pretty much every game they play is, like, simulated someone's drowning, someone needs to be rescued, something's happening, and people are running around. Like, I don't... Maybe it's because I'm female and, like, I only have sisters, so, like, our playtime that I can recall when we were kids was always much more, like, other than, like, the Powerpuff Girls, like, it wasn't really centered around conflict. It was normally just centered around, like, we're building something, or we have to go somewhere, or whatever. Like, I don't know. My partner tells me that him and his little brother would often play the exact same kind of things, and it was also very loud and very like, we're about to die, oh my god. Ah. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old. Okay, so here is where I am going to have her arm coming out to grab this needle. So it's kind of like she's about to slash. So she's about to slash with the needle. And it's not going to really make sense because, like, her arms come out from under the garment. So I'm trying to think of how I can maybe make that more, How do I make that make more sense? Maybe if it's coming from, like, the back. I should also be doing this on a different layer. I shouldn't be trying to do this on the same layer. I mean, I could also just do that. Maybe that works better because, like, whatever she's grabbing is coming from underneath. But I liked it better when it was on top, and also I spent so much time making it, so I don't wanna. I wanna have it on top. Sometimes things are unavoidable. Sometimes you just have to suck it up and know that if you want something to look good, you're gonna have to put in the work. That's it. Just you're gonna have to put in the work. So have her holding it like that, because her arms do flex a bit when she's holding the thing. So that's gonna be her arm. I'm never gonna get to eat. I mean, to be fair, I'll have to make food. So this is not gonna be a work being avoided thing. I wonder though. Hang on. Maybe I can avoid, because that does not look right. I want to see if this might work. So if I move this layer underneath and I take her arm out from that side, so it's like it's coming out from underneath her cloak but on the other side, and maybe I can also just like add another little petal of cloak. Yes, this is the way. This is what's gonna save this. Okay, and then we just blend that a bit. Just a bit. Alrighty. Then I take this layer that I've made. Well, first let's take the needle. Let's take the needle and align it better to that piece of her hand. I also realized that there's like a little bit of needle that's kind of coming out there that needs to be fixed. There we go. That's fine. Okay, then on top of the needle, and I could just cut the hand to make this work, but this will also work, and I don't have to move stuff around to do this. And there we go. So now she's wielding the needle with her hand on the needle like that. And that looks way better than whatever nonsense I was trying to do. I know I'm jumping between stuff, but like, that is how this works. Alrighty. That looks like a thing. Wonderful. I think on my YouTube side it is lagging a lot because I'm already finished with Hornet and I'm like looking at the YouTube video and it's like way behind. I'm gonna try reloading it and see if that shows me the thing. Hopefully that didn't do anything with YouTube. Oh my gosh, it's been 3 hours already. Okay, and I was also behind in the stream. That's why I wasn't seeing stuff up to date. That's crazy. When did it... Oh my gosh, it's 4. It's already 4? What the hell? Okay, but that aside, I really, really like how this looks. Like, it's really coming along. I know this bit of silk doesn't really make sense because the silk would be coming from the end of her needle and this is coming from the start of her needle, but shut up. It's about the leading the eye thing. But, like, I really love how this looks. I actually, just one more thing I want to do, which is to take one more bit of silk. I don't know what that is. I need to get rid of that. I'm just gonna, whoops, wrong color. Just one more thing of silk and just have that come up and around grandmother's silk. And that, I guess, makes whatever that little line is make sense all of a sudden, even though I don't know what that is or how it got there. But yes, we finally finished it. It's not done. Still have to add. What do I have to add? Where's my checklist? I still need to add Chakra, Garamond, and Mr. Mushroom, but frankly, because those are going to be background characters, and they're probably just going to be at the top somewhere here, like, Chakra's probably going to be here, I'll put Garamond up here with Zaza, and then I'll put Mr. Mushroom at the top here, and at the bottom down here, poking up from the thing. But, like, this looks awesome. I'm gonna be so happy when this gets printed. Like, I'm so excited to see how this looks in the final version. Let's just turn off all of these references that I'm no longer using so that I can get a proper, like, zoom in, zoom down. So let's zoom in and zoom up. So we've got the abyss with lace, the fourth chorus destroying stuff, the hunter's march with all of these buds of what the fuck, cogwork dancers, a flea, the fey down bird, and grandmother's silk. There's still weird stuff every here and there that need to be addressed, but, like, frankly, given how long this has taken, and what it actually ended up looking like, I am beyond happy. I really, really like this, and that's why you should draw what you love, because if you're drawing what you love, it doesn't matter whether or not the artwork is good, you're gonna love it. So kind of that, I think, negates the issue that all artists will have at one point, which is that you'll look at your work and be like, I don't know. But, like, if it's something you love, then there's no, I don't know, it's yes, I know, this is the thing, this is the deal, this is the space, this is what we aimed for from the beginning, and we're finally here, boys. We finally got it. Just fixing this, I guess I don't know what's going on here. But follow your dreams. Okay, thank you everyone who came to these streams and sat with me as we finished this. I think the final thing that needs to be done is just a signature. I'll put my Awkward Onion logo on it later, but I always do the signature first and then do the Awkward Onion logo. 2025, so that I also know what year this was. And then a little piece of silk. And there we go. Okay, so on the next stream, I'm probably going to start with an Esquier piece from Claire Obscure, and it might be a crossover with the Silksong piece. I still haven't decided that yet. But for everyone who has been watching, thank you so much. Really appreciate the continued watching and support and stuff, and I hope you have